If you want to hear guys that argue more than Trump, Vance, and Zelensky combined, go to YouTube and search out at NTTFGPOD and hit that subscribe button. I'm Rock.
And I'm Archie.
Well, our opinions, they might not matter to some, but
What are you doing in there?
it's a podcast.
Immature, crass, trashy. And those are their good qualities. These poor schmucks are a couple of IQ points away from eating paste. But when it comes to music, sports, and comedy, well, that's all they know. You're listening to
Not these two fucking guys.
Not These Two Fucking Guys podcast.
Yo, Rock.
What's up, dude?
Oh, buckle up, my friend, because today's guest is a walking, talking highlight reel of face-punching finesse. Whether the boxing ring, MMA cage, or even the wild, wild west of bare-knuckle brawls, this man is the talent. Welcome to Not These Two Fucking Guys podcast, Alan Belcher.
Oh, jeez.
What's up, man?
Not these two guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How are you?
Yeah, they are. What's up, man? Yeah, good to hear from you guys.
Same here. Thank you so much for
Yeah,
your
man.
time. We appreciate it. You're down in Mississippi, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah. We're down here on the Gulf of America.
Yeah.
Newly changed. How's the weather down there at this time of year?
It's nice. Yeah, I mean it's kind of hit or miss. It's kind of like one of those. It's cold one day and hot the next, but we're kind of I don't know. I can't complain. This would probably be summer for a lot of people. It's been in the 70s and 80s here recently.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
No hurricane season. That's the end of the year, so we're in a nice time. Spring and early summer here is good.
Thank God.
for the people that are watching or listening at home, I don't know if that's a fake background, but I see some guitar cases, my friend.
Yeah. No, it's real background.
Nice. What do we
Real-
got? What do we
real
got back
background.
there? What do we got back there? Anything? What's in the arsenal?
Oh man, that's just a pile of old guitars and whatnot. I gotta. Hold on. I have a.
Is this a hobby or?
Yeah, it's definitely a hobby, but yeah, I got a bunch. I got a lot.
Wow.
Look at that shit.
Yeah.
I want one of these
Yeah.
rooms. You know what? When
Yeah,
when we
this is-
first
here's
when
my
we
fun
first
room.
moved into our house, my wife said, "Oh, you got one of those rooms. You got one of those rooms," and she started a work from home job, and I don't have one of those rooms.
It's her room.
It's her room.
That's cool, man. That's cool. Yeah, I like it.
What type of music do you play?
Just kind of like whatever I'm into, whatever, just I identify as an artist, so I'm very, it's just whatever gets me in the headspace that I'm trying to be in. I'm just kind of a go with the flow type of guy. I've been doing it since I was a kid.
That's
The
awesome.
normal go to school and work a normal career and stuff just wasn't in the card for me. So I'm just a free spirit, as they call it.
That's awesome. Listen, you are
I'm a free man. I learned early on. I kind of made the connection that I was going to have a free life and do what I wanted to do. Got really set and focused on not doing anything like what anybody else was doing, only like what I saw on TV.
Yeah.
Wanted to be an actor or some type of a famous musician or an athlete or just somebody that just traveled the world and did weird stuff, just like whatever. But
Yeah.
not a job kind of guy.
Very cool. Very cool.
That is
Yeah.
I'm saying, so Archie and I, we've been in bands together since we were younger, and you have a way nicer setup than we've ever had.
That's funny. That's crazy, man. Yeah, no, I've been collecting it for, my main collection is Stratocasters. I have a
Okay.
lot of Stratocasters. and
Nice.
that's like my favorite. That's my favorite one. So I got a lot of different colors and different, and I got one American and a bunch of Mexican ones and a bunch of Japanese ones and things like that. And I only got really like one nice one or whatever.
Yeah.
Got but I like that, and what comes along with it, that kind of style. I mean, I'm not like a no Eric Clapton or John Mayer or anything like that, but
Got
or
it.
Stevie Ray Vaughan. But I like that kind of stuff.
Nice. Nice.
I try. I give it my best effort.
I got I got a bunch of Schecters, but I had a fake imitation Stratocaster that fell off the truck.
Uh-huh.
So, but I put up like some custom pickups in there, so it sounds nice though. I like the way it sounds. It actually sounds really well. Probably,
Yeah.
$130
Archie,
guitar.
yours is more like a fucking ghetto caster. It's not really.
Oh man.
But
Yeah,
so
they're cool.
you originally grew up in Arkansas, if I'm not mistaken.
True. Yeah, man. Yeah, just that's where the man upstairs, you know, pooped me out right there, Northeast Arkansas. Yeah, it's a really weird place, really really small place. Not much going on. The people are just kind of, I don't know. It's kind of like they're just kind of stuck there a lot, There are some good people, obviously, a lot of people that are, a lot of my family is still there and everything.
Mhm.
But yeah, there wasn't a whole lot going on. I was ready to get out and go somewhere else my whole life. So as soon as I got out of high school, I was just hit the road, you know?
Well, you said you didn't want to do a 9 to 5, have a regular job, so that's pretty much what Arkansas would have afforded you back there, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's there's not a lot of jobs there either. So there's not a lot of opportunity for jobs, education, or you know, um, any type of creative, pursuit or anything. Really, there's just not a whole lot there, or at least there wasn't then. Maybe it's changing now a little bit, but this wasn't a whole lot there. So there's a lot of people that just kind of partially live not off of their land, but just kind of, maybe honestly, a lot of government people get checks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There are the people that work, they go, like my dad has been out on the river for like 35, 40 years. Since he was like 17 years old.
Wow.
And he's a riverboat captain. So people will go,
Wow.
they'll leave to make real money and to have a real good job. You got to go, work offshore, work on the river, work as a, welder or something like that, But my dad was cool enough. He would have been fine if I would have followed and, wanted to do something like that, but he never really pushed it on me. He was always trying to get out of that. And I got a lot of my entrepreneurial kind of energy and stuff from watching what he was doing when he worked 30 days on, 30 days off. So in his off time, he always had some kind of hustle, some kind of business or something going. So I was exposed to restaurants and the construction, trucking, septic tank pumping, just all kinds of a tire store, gas station, all kinds of different businesses
Hustle.
and stuff. So my dad was always trying to escape having to, the main way is making money working for someone else and have your own freedom. So he was in pursuit of freedom, and I picked that up. And my mom always encouraged me to, she told me I was the best and I would do whatever I wanted to do. She was like, "Get out of here, go. You're going to be something," So it just kind of built my identity around that. Yeah,
Is
kind
that
of worked
where,
out to some extent.
I'll say we have something in common. It's not the fighting ability, that's for sure. So growing up in Arkansas, is that where you became a Johnny Cash fan? Because I know you got a Johnny Cash tattoo.
Yeah.
I know he's originally from there.
For sure. Yeah, he was. I was about 12 years old when I found out Johnny Cash was from Dice, Arkansas. And yeah, I met some people that were from there, and they're all telling me about it. And I had heard Johnny Cash before that and stuff, but yeah, that's my dad's one of those guys that just whatever music he listened to back in the day, he listened to that when I was a kid, and he listens to it now. You know what I'm saying? So it's always the same type of stuff. So I was exposed to that music, and you know, there was I think there was something more deeper interesting in that though that I even realized at the time, and later on I realized it was more of a kind of like a deeper kind of spiritual thing that you were sensing from Johnny Cash, from the words and from the tone and everything that you didn't, back then I was just thinking like, well, this is people don't listen to this, but this is freaking cool, But I think it's probably a deeper thing that you didn't pick up, and
Yeah.
also I'm not just like the biggest Johnny Cash fan or whatever. That's what people always say. You got Johnny Cash, you must be a huge fan. I'm like, I really like him, but I mean, I wouldn't say like I don't have like memorabilia at my house. I don't go to Johnny Cash, you know, reunion fan meetups or anything.
Yeah,
But
same here.
the
I'm a big fan. My dad got me into it, same like you. And as I got older, learning about him and like he was very spiritual and like lots of I like stories about like redemption. Like you like kind of like do a lot of parallels to like your own life. So
sure.
I got this tattoo. I don't know if you can see it.
What?
The cover of
Oh,
the San Quentin album. So
okay.
that's what we have
That's
in
cool,
common.
man. That's great. Well, you're the first person that I've talked to that has the Johnny Cash tattoo on their arm. That's cool. Yeah.
You're lucky he didn't show you the other arm.
Um, so you I got into watching MMA. You were one of my favorite fighters because you were one of those guys that a true mixed martial artist. Wherever the fight went, you excelled. You can handle yourself. There wasn't a spot that was like you see some guys were just wrestlers and then on the feet they can't their striking wasn't up to par. Some guys that had no wrestling once you take them down the fight's over. Um, I
Right.
could sit here and talk and fanboy out and talk to you about your whole career. I'm not going to do that, but I do want to talk about a couple things. But I want to get into first and foremost where you're at today, right? So I saw the news that you signed with the GFL, Global Fighting League. That was awesome. Drafted by Team New
Yeah,
York, I believe.
that is true. Yeah, Team New York.
I was super excited to see that I had seen interviews with you while you were doing bare knuckle. You were in BKFC. If you ever do MMA again, and you said yeah. And a lot of the fighters that some of the fighters that we talked to that passed their UFC career and they're kind of getting to other things were like, yeah, I'm kind of done with MMA unless something really came along and like knocked my socks off. I probably wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
But your answer was different, and I'm like, wow, that's awesome. So I always like, we follow you on social media, and then when I saw that, I'm like, this is awesome. So talk to me about that.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean what I think what you're saying is that the answer that I was given, what I've kind of thought in this whole comeback is I wanted to I knew that there was a route that I was planning on taking in boxing and bare knuckle boxing, and I knew that that was a way for me to kind of go from starting over at zero to like reinventing myself and gaining popularity and publicity and stuff with the new audience and whatnot. And but for my own journey, I guess I've always just kind of wanted to finish it with MMA. I wanted to fight MMA again, even if it was going to be, a local thing or something like that. I wanted to do it. So yeah, this opportunity came along, and yeah, it's good. Hopefully it works out and stays and does what it's intending on doing.
So talk about that a little bit. I like the uniqueness of the GFL where they're talking about it seems like a very fighter first organization. Um, what are some of the things that GFL offers that let's just say a UFC or like a Bellator has never offered really in the past to a fighter?
Um, I mean, there are some benefits. I'm not sure compared to like UFC. I would say more than anything else. I'll mention that there are some benefits. I can't go too much into details on that, and
Yeah,
I'm still learning more about that, what all is offered. But there's that direction, and then there's the way that you're paid is on your own performance like normal, but then you get team performance and bonuses and things like that too. So it kind of stacks on the way that the athletes are paid. But above all, I would say that the idea that they're trying to pull off is kind of like an economic play where there's more of a free market, and the competition between the teams drives up the salaries of the players. So, in the MMA world, you're looking at the top tier guys are like in the what would you say? Even I would just say 1 to 10 million
hmm
for superstars. When you have other sports, the other major baseball, basketball, football, where you're at the 100 and 200 million dollar for the top tier superstars.
sure.
And also, we're comparing a fight to a longer contract or whatever. So even with that, you're probably looking at it at least 10 times. You're looking at maybe a superstar could make 10 or 20 million. And in the other sports, the superstars can make 100 to 200 million. And this is mainly because of there's an organization called the NBA, MLB, and the NFL that is separate from the teams, right? And that organization is kind of responsible for dispersing all this big money and whatnot throughout the teams. And then each team has ways of making money on their own with their own events. Say, like if you want to compare it to MMA, it would be like an event. And teams have their own stadiums, so they make their own money in their own local market or
Sure.
whatever that would be. So there's multiple ways that the money's flowing. But the really cool part is that whenever your team is more popular, makes more money, whenever you have the better players. So whenever your contract comes up, whoever can pay the most gets the guy. So like with GFL right now, it's starting with 6 teams, and they're going to add more. So even with those 6 teams, it becomes a game of who can offer the guy the most when his contract is up. So in
Right.
the beginning, GFL contracted everybody, and then the teams kind of drafted them or whatever in a kind of like, let's who gets first pick, boom, boom, boom. Now they're all spread out. Now the interesting thing will be when you start to trade players and players come out of contract, and then those prices start to go up because the team wants to win, right? And then so whoever has more money is look at it, compare it to like a New York Yankees type of thing,
Yeah.
right? They won so many World Series because they had the money to get the best players, the best pitchers, the best defense, the
Yep.
best hitters, etc.
Yeah, it's
So
a
that's I feel like that's the biggest play here. That if this thing hits and works out, that would be the most interesting part about it.
it's very cool. Everything I've read about the GFL sounds really cool. It seems like it's fighter first. Um, and that's important. And I think that sometimes gets lost maybe on some fans about, the fighter, right? When you get to a certain point in your career, where the injuries are adding up, and you're not at that, you know, ranked top five, UFC level, that there is still opportunity and they're going to look after the players. And I saw I don't know all the specifics and I wouldn't expect you to know it either, but like talking about like, medical benefits and like stuff like that, where I think that other organizations, if they're treating you more like an independent contractor, that you're kind of on your own with all that. We've talked to fighters that have
Yeah.
said that, it's kind of heartbreaking sometimes that you guys and girls go out there and literally put your lives on the line, and then when you're in need, there's nobody there to help.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, there is some of that, but also I like to be responsible for my own life and things, and
Sure.
that's just how it works. And if you don't like it, change it, or if you don't like it, leave like I did,
Yep.
or don't go back and, go somewhere else where we have more opportunity. When I'm about 4 years ago, when I was stuck, I'm like, hey, and I'm on the backside at 30, and so I looked at my end of my 30s, 36 to 40. It's like, okay, that's the period of time. If I want to do it, I better clear my plate and focus on this. And you know, um, I want one of the things that was really important to me was to keep an open, non-exclusive contract
Yeah.
to where I wouldn't be locked down, and there was always a way out, all that, with the UFC, that was an issue, and I think they're was somewhat handling it now or whatever. Things are changing. Of course, you have the lawsuits and all that type of stuff.
Sure.
But I knew that I had to do what I had to do. I can't depend on saying, oh, I need more, you guys are being harsh to me or whatever. It's like, it's a business. So let me do what I can do. That's all you can do, is kind of take your own responsibility. So when I went back into it, I made sure that all my negotiations, it allowed me to fight outside of their organization if I wanted to. It allowed me to box. Even my contract with GFL allows for me to do other things as well. As long as it does not directly competing with them in MMA, I can still do boxing, and whatever. I don't have to close off my options.
That's awesome. Listen, having that opportunity available is for sure freedom for yourself. So let's talk about last time you were in BKFC. You were the heavyweight champion.
Yeah.
What happened from there?
So, I think it's a matter of bad timing. Bad timing for when they had money, when Feldman had money. See, the way that it seems to work is that a company like BKFC goes and raises money from investors, and then they want to spend that money in hopes that they can really take off to where then the money starts flowing back in. And they've taken on investors so many times that it's getting hard to do. So they're I'm not sure what the future looks like for them, but me in particular, my situation was all about money. It was all about money. When I had that first initial agreement with Feldman, I was like, look, I want to fight for your belt, but I don't want to do although my skill is probably good enough and I hadn't fought in a few years. Like, I want to get some experience. I want to do some boxing matches, and I want to do some bare knuckle fights. And then I want to work my way up to fighting the champ on the fourth part, the fourth fight in my contract. It was a 4-fight deal. So plan went as smoothly as possible. So I had like 8 or 10 in a row, all knockouts, except for my first fight was a decision, all knockouts after that. I had like 8 or 9 knockouts.
Mm-hmm.
And then I fought Arnold Adams for the belt. So I'm wearing the belt. I'm the champ, and I'm completely out of the contract. So now we're at a situation where it's like, okay, what we've been talking about for these years, now I'm going to be the champ. Now we can start to fight the bigger name guys, maybe starting with Ben Rothwell, because maybe he's not the biggest name, but he's got a couple bare knuckle fights now. I'll go and I'll knock him out, and then let's go for a bigger name, and let's build BKFC with me being the champ for as long as I can continue to fight for a couple more years and get bigger and bigger and bigger names, and work up to where we bring in eventually a kind of a UFC champ or boxing WBO champ or something like that in the heavyweight status, see what happens there. And then now this is the whole game plan or whatever. But when it came down to it, we couldn't come to agreements on money, and I wasn't. It's not like one of those guys where I was asking for an astronomical amount.
Hmm.
I'm a team player. I've been playing on the team, building up. Now it's just a point to where now give me a piece, give me a little piece of the pie going forward. Give me a little sliver of the company. Give me you know, in the number range that I'm looking for. You
Sure.
know, which and that's when it kind of all went downhill. So the way that it looked to the outside was I was boxing Hasim Rockman, which was, like I said, this was all in my contract that I was able to fight. So I had the match with Hasim Rockman Jr. coming up, and so I think what happened was that Feldman saw that as an opportunity to say, okay, I'm going to tell everyone that he took a boxing match and forfeited his title. That wasn't actually true. What happened was he called me and said, hey, these guys are complaining that you're getting to do this boxing. I'm like, well, this is a deal we have. They don't have that deal with you. I'm the champ, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like we already had this deal for a couple of years now. And he's like, look, this is the deal. Let's go. You can do the boxing match. I have to tell everybody that we're taking the belt because of that. And then we're going to do the deal. And we're close on the numbers that you want and all that. Don't worry about it. And then from that point forward, then we couldn't come up with a deal. And he just kind of used that. I think he was happy with that. He's like, okay, well, we don't have any money now. And there wouldn't be any other explanation. It's just they didn't have the money. And so that doesn't look good to say we can't afford to pay our champ and keep him going. So let's sweep this under the rug and keep it going. You know how the business works. It's all,
Sure.
I'm just giving you some behind the scenes stuff. And
Yeah.
hopefully I'm not crapping on them too bad. I mean,
No, not at all. Not at all.
it's not that big of a deal. It just is what it is. I mean, I'm sure if they had the money, they could work it out.
Yeah.
Who knows? But either way, that's the truth about it. So that's why you have a Mick Terrell as a champ. Ben Rothwell comes and beats him, and all that, and it's fun. I've come to terms with it. I would, if the money's right, I'll continue. I would like to do it, but I don't know if you could really pay me enough to fight Ben Rothwell or something. It's just the risk and reward doesn't make as much sense to me.
Sure.
What I was looking for is to really do something monumental and fight some big name guys in bare knuckle and see, where this is just, Ben Rothwell against Mick Terrell. It's not these really the top two heavyweights in the world that we're watching in bare knuckle boxing. Let's see something. Let's see what we really want to see. Let's see top level fighters going
Sure.
against each other.
So you seem like you're always constantly pushing yourself. And so your Instagram, I love it. It's very inspirational.
Yeah.
I want to talk about that. You say it's almost like a calling. Talk about what you're doing now with these men's groups, and like I see you guys out in the friggin' snow. I'm like,
Yeah.
with shorts on. Talk about that part of the journey.
The Warriors Order, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah, I'm part of a men's group for sure. Yeah, and we've kind of expanded it and opened it up for more men because I saw in my personal life the guys that I've been around and worked with that have helped me and I've helped them. I saw such a big result from going just a little bit deeper with the guys where you can actually talk about the things that you don't have to go home and put on your wife, but actually have these talks with these other men that are like us. You guys have your own life, your stuff that you got going, you got your family, but you're doing the podcast too. It's like you're driven. There's this, you know what I mean? There's something you're doing this probably because you like it. You feel that there's purpose and meaning behind it, and you just love to do it. Just like you were talking about earlier with the music and the
Yep.
being in the bands and stuff. And so there's a
Yeah.
spirit there,
Mm-hmm.
and so you got to get around other guys like that and talk about that, because that comes with challenges too, and you can't do it alone. So um, men pushing other men. It's not like a tough guy type of thing. It's more of it's more of like a, exploring, asking the question, keeping it scientific, and just taking it deeper. It was like 4 years ago. Started off just me and my buddy Robbie, and we were just experimenting with all this stuff with the sweat lodge and the cold plunges, the psychedelics, and this whole, the breath work, holographic breath work, somatic healing, and doing yoga, and just all these things that we never thought that we would be doing, and just trying to discover, what the next thing was for us in our life. And once you get to a certain point in a man's life, and you have to make a transition kind of from a young man to an old man, or a hungry, hormone driven boy into a wise man or whatever. You make this transition. So there's, I'm not saying anything crazy that people don't know. It's really just the kind of the essence of being a human being. Is there's kind of a cocoon butterfly evolving effect that people don't really notice, and then they get into this situation when they're in their 30s or 40s or whatever, and maybe they go through a divorce or whatever, maybe it's just an existential crisis, and then they're in therapy and they're just like all in their head about it. But it's like, here's the good news, buddy. Like, we all go through it. We all, you know what I'm saying? And if you ain't, then you're just putting it off, and there's going to be a time where you're going to have to come out of that shell, and you're going to have to, because what happens a lot of times is we live behind this kind of like fake persona, and then we don't have really any friends that we allow back behind that. And I see it all the time, and I used to be like that too. I never, until recently, if I go back my younger years,
Mm-hmm.
all my friends, I had a character that I would show to them, but not really I couldn't let them deeper inside, maybe something like that. So it's a matter of like, kind of like becoming yourself, becoming your true self. And, there becomes a time where you're just like, screw it, man. I don't care what anybody thinks anymore. I'm just going to be open and tell the truth, become a truth teller.
So it's almost like you've been training for God knows how many years physically, right?
Uh-huh.
But you, as later in life, you almost had to train your mind as well.
Yeah.
To be one with yourself,
Yeah.
like to link up, because you've been training and physically, I'm gonna say abusing your body, but like, the athlete that you are, but
Yeah.
It takes a toll.
mentally you need to catch up and to figure out who you are, and it's pretty fucking deep.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, when you're young, there's a different thing that drives you. You're trying to prove yourself. You're trying to become someone. You're trying to climb the ladder of success and come up on the totem pole. And I'm competitive. Like, so we're little monkeys, you know what I mean? Or chimpanzees competing the same way that they are. And you develop wisdom, and you start to see that that's what you were doing all along. And there becomes a point where it's like, I'm not playing that game anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Your hormones start to die down a little bit, and you're like, what the hell was I doing? Look how I acted. You can see that.
Yeah.
And I always notice that if a guy is not talking about their younger self as a totally different person, it's like, oh, they haven't made that transition yet.
Yep.
They haven't made that transition yet, they're not talking about their stuff like, when I was young and dumb and this and that and whatever, it's like,
Yeah.
you got to
Yeah.
make that transition, and you start to see the wisdom, in it or whatever. So yeah, I didn't really have anything to prove anymore, but I knew that there was, at the same time, there has to be some type of a purpose. You have to do something. You have to keep yourself busy.
Yeah.
So what a man needs is something to do, something to go after, a mission to kind of tackle or whatever. And so just kind of went down that journey, and looks similar, but it's different for everyone. I
That's
would
awesome.
say, yeah.
So do you think that once your active fighting career, no matter what iteration it is, once that winds down, do you see yourself even going deeper into the spiritual side?
Um, yeah. I mean, the way that I've kind of evolved in this is I've learned a lot about leadership, and um, there was definitely a time where I started to see, um, I don't know, what I call is like the reality and the truth about things. And whenever there was a time where I really felt like I needed some changes. I remember thinking like I want to be more spiritually connected. I wanted like a relationship with God or whatever. And so I was doing all these things to just try to find out, in a way. It's really hard to explain. And sometimes you'll see this when people do the, ayahuasca retreats and things like that. And then they completely, they dress different, they talk different. Everything is just, man, this person just, they went off the deep end, like, whoa, come back, buddy. So there was a period of time where I was like, wow, okay, I see things differently now. I'm like spiritually awakened. This is what they've been talking about.
Yeah.
And then time goes by and you kind of integrate that in. I start to realize how to use that in a good way. And so what I've learned is just to kind of be a leader and a mentor for some younger guys that are just kind of looking to get on the right path or whatever it is, and just having that group of men is really important, like the not just the kind of thing where you're just guys to be guys and have guy talk. Well, that's cool too,
Yeah.
but there's definitely a deeper aspect of it. I mean, have you guys ever did like a sweat lodge? Have you ever been in a sweat
No.
or anything like that?
No.
Room, that's about it. And I stand by the door, and when I feel like I can't breathe, I fucking bust open the door. That's it.
I mean, New Jersey in August is pretty fucking close, but
Yeah. Yeah, man, it's really cool. I've really come to like, that's probably one of my favorite things is the sweat lodges, because I've seen guys go through a huge transformation. I'm talking about like um, deep trauma, PTSD, can't sleep, night terrors, panic attacks,
yeah.
all that type of stuff. And then they go through like one of these sweat lodge ceremonies and they're just fixed. And this is without any type of psychedelic drugs or anything,
Okay.
which is interesting, because that's scary to a lot of people, and it's probably not right for a lot, right for a lot of people, because it does make you can have a really big perception change.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you're not careful, you just have kind of like, you've created a whole nother animal, and now you're like fooled by yourself, and now you're like a totally different personality and stuff.
Well,
But yeah, exactly. So I don't recommend that for everyone. I think those are extreme cases of people with addiction and things like that the psychedelics, or if you're a very healthy, mentally healthy person, and you have kind of like a spiritual, some kind of a spiritual foundation, you kind of understand, where you really stand spiritually. It's not just words that you say, but you kind of you really kind of know or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you take those psychedelics, you're going to see something that you never realized was there before, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Listen, I'm still trying to get Rocky to take a 5 milligram gummy. So I don't see him taking any.
Baby steps.
The closest he's getting to fucking mushrooms is fucking chicken marsala. But no, I've heard a lot about this. I mean, like a big proponent is fucking Rogan. You hear a lot about him talk about some cool shit. But the sweat lodge might be kind of cool. That would
I mean, there's all kinds of different things that you can do, and that's what we do with the Warriors Order, in like the retreats that we're starting to do, is that we give you an opportunity to have experiences that help you see more things about yourself. It's an internal thing, and that's one thing I realized is, like, I've been in martial arts my whole life, and my life was a little different. So no wonder I see things a little differently. Not saying that that's a better way or whatever, but it's like you're kind of forced to think differently and look a little differently whenever you're in like real fights with people. It's like all these fears and stuff that we have, they're all in our head,
Yeah.
And eventually it really takes a toll on you, because subconsciously these fears are kind of driving everything that you're doing in your life, and stuff gets trapped in your body. These these old traumas and memory, the things that you don't really want to think about or whatever. It's like they get stuck in there, and it causes issues later on. But that's what we're doing. It's kind of like the example that I use a lot is we used to go to the lake in the summertime, and I would jump off of this cliff at the lake, and every summer we would go. It got a little bit easier, but always that first time up, you get up there and you're about to step off, and it's like, man, last summer I jumped off of this. Why is it so scary? And it's like, especially the first time, you can't imagine doing it, but as soon as you do it, you're like, whoa, that was fun. That was cool. Let me do that again. You realized in that moment that it was just a mental block. It's just a trick. And then you got the kid that figures it out, and they're like, well, let me show everybody how this works. All I got to do is flip off that switch. Watch this, guys. And they're just as scared as everybody else, but they know that if they just go and jump, that it's going to look really cool.
Yeah.
And they're like, how did he do that? He's not afraid. No, he is afraid. He's just able to see it as for what it is. It's just it's a trick that your mind's playing on you.
Gotcha.
And I think that's the whole mission of life, is not to be a animal, where that's how animals work, and they don't have a conscious mind. They're just a meat suit with a nervous system that is controlled by automatic survival modes and whatnot. And that's how most of us are living on a day-to-day basis. Even though you're saying words and you're talking about this and you're talking about that, it's all just an underlying thing that's happening naturally.
Yeah.
If you can slow your brain down and access the real present moment, then you can see the reality of what's going on.
That's awesome. I love that you're providing this kind of something for guys. I feel like guys are less likely to talk about things and like that kind of thing, and you're giving them a forum, where everybody feels, if everyone's sharing like how they feel and seeing things differently, it makes people want to share more.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because that's it, man. I have that conversation with one person almost every week, where it's like, they're like, man, when I heard you say that you were dealing with something, it really made me feel like it was okay for me to, I'm like, okay, I kind of get my job now, my purpose is like people look up to me. Oh, look at this tough fighter and all this. If I can just speak some truth and tell you kind of what I've been through, you'll realize that we're kind of having the same experience there, and then that the what you really think is the reality is just everybody lying. Everybody's just lying. So we just try to cut through the lies and actually become truth tellers. And the truth will set you free.
That's it.
Jesus words.
You
Jesus.
said it. Before we let you go, where can everybody find you to see these messages that you're posting on Instagram and other social media?
Yeah, Instagram's best. Yeah, I've been most active on Instagram, and yeah, the group is completely free. It's growing really fast, so you can just go in, click the link, and I hope to have you two guys in there as well.
I'm interested.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah, a lot of guys in our age range and the range of the viewers that you were telling me about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So
right, we're gonna pump it out there then, man.
Okay.
One thing before I let you go, I have to say this was probably one of my best experiences watching fights. May 5th, 2012. I don't know if you remember who you fought that day or where it was. It was in New Jersey. It was at the Meadowlands. And you fought Husamar Paharis.
Oh yeah.
That is one, I would say, top 3 favorite fights. Because you were one of my favorite fighters when I was really heavily into UFC at that time. And I mean, the backstory of that fight is nobody wanted to fight him. He hung on to people's legs and shredded their knees. People were afraid to go. Once you hit the ground on the ground with him, he would grab a leg and that would be it. And he would hang on to it till the ref pulled him off. And even after that,
Yeah.
Talking about no fear, you engaged him on the ground, which nobody did. And then, if I remember, I think you tried to get him with like a twister or something crazy, and then you wound up pounding him out for the TKO. And the live crowd lost their shit in that fight. I remember Cinco de Mayo. I remember it was yesterday.
Oh, that was a great. Yeah, that's probably one of my top experience for my whole career. That was a really cool one.
Oh shit. And then your after fight little interview was fantastic too. You were kind of rubbing it in his face.
Yeah, it was a good one, man. Yeah, that was that's a good example of when I took that fight. I believe it was Joe. I don't think it was Sean Selby. I think it was like one of the last ones that Joe Silva did. Mm-hmm. And he called me about it, and I was really I didn't even really know what burnout was at the time, but I was going through a kind of a stint of burnout and kind of feeling depressed about it. And that fight in that fight camp really taught me so much about how your mind works. And I started becoming aware of how I think and stuff. So as soon as they offered the fight to me, I realized that it wasn't that I wasn't motivated to fight. It was that I didn't have the right mission, or I didn't have the purpose behind it. Because as soon as he told me who it was, I was like, something went off in my head, because it was like, oh, that's a dangerous guy. Why do I want to fight him so bad? Oh, because I'm starting to feel motivation. I feel motivation now. And I was like, yes, that's the one I want. And that was one of those times where I went in my total ADD, autistic, psychopath modes, and was just like, I got off the phone with him, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna start calling jiu-jitsu, calling everybody that I know. I'm gonna have 25 different jiu-jitsu coaches that teach me all this stuff, and we're gonna prepare every day, all day long. It was just like, it was the coolest camp ever, because it was so many, Eddie Bravo and Dean Lister and Davi Ramos and Daniel Marias and all these guys, and they all come in, and I just soaked it all up, and we trained so hard, and it's like, it's interesting how whenever your fear, when you want to win and you're motivated, it ends up looking like you're not afraid. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah.
Because it may I tell people all the time, it's like, when you really want to win, it looks different. It looks different, because most people are they're going through all the motions. They just want to look like winners. They want to look cool. They want to look like they're smart and all this. But when you really want to win, you'd be like, listen, I need somebody else to tell me what to do. I need to know, I need to figure out the right protocol here. I need to figure this out because I want to win so bad. I'm going to pay attention to every meticulous detail. And so, yeah, that was a cool one. I just don't, what I don't get about the fight is how everyone else, it was a really big deal to me. And it was like this whole thing, but it was just kind of like a grappling match and going for leg locks. And it's almost like everyone else kind of felt the same thing. I don't know if it was like just the energy of what it was, probably just that it was so scary that he was. I think that most people get that is like your knees getting tore and having a surgery is a pretty.
Yeah.
You don't want to put that's probably like one of the worst things about MMA is like, yeah, MMA is cool, but what about if they get you in that thing and they tear your knee out? That's like the worst thing that can happen almost, really, isn't it? Because that lasts your whole life.
That's it. But thank you so much. You've been a pleasure to watch, as you entertain fans. We can't wait to have you back when you get GFL going. To continue to hear your inspirational message. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, guys. All right, thank you.
Thanks a lot, Alan.
See you guys later.
All right,
Take
brother.
care. Stay well.
Stay well.
All right, you too.
Alan Belcher.
Great Alan Belcher.
Inspirational.
Very inspirational. You hear a lot of we talk to a lot of fighters that are like, camp and moves and this and that and strategies and cutting weight and what they have to do. We've never had a fighter, I think, on this podcast that was more mental than physical, really, right?
Very, very cerebral. Very cerebral.
Very. Well, with that being said, Rocco, my friend, everyone out there that could follow us on YouTube at NTTFGPOD, what do you have to say to the people?
If you just heard us talking to our boy Alan, you're drinking JMO by the gallon. You got chrome BBSs on your 95 Eagle Talon, and you don't want to shoot yourself in the foot like Megan Thee Stallion? Then you just listen to Not These Two Fucking Guys podcast.
We out.
If you just heard us talking to our boy Alan, you're drinking JMO by the gallon. You got chrome BBSs on your 95 Eagle Talon, and you won't...
And your sides are shaved like a weird-looking Jimmy Fallon? Oh, sorry. I was looking at something else.